Okay, and then some parsley. Okay, all right, now I'm gonna add the zucchini. So Wes, if you wanna flip it back, do the next layer. Now the zucchini, you can see the nice brown char that we got. And that is one of the benefits of adding a little oil. And you can see I didn't add a lot of oil. And if you are trying to eat oil-free, this will work without the oil. You can just, follow the same instructions and not put the oil. It'll be okay. All right, so that is the zucchini. And now we're gonna add some more sauce. And then we will do, so I used about 2/3 of that. Okay, and then a little more green sauce. And then we'll top it off with some of the dried parsley. Just kind of looks nice to have that extra color in there. Okay, and there she goes. And then what we'll do is we will cover this and bake it for 30 minutes. I'm going to put it in the oven. And then by the end of the class, it'll come out of the oven and you'll be able to see it fully baked. Okay, so that's the vegetable not lasagna. When I first made it, I told someone I made vegetable lasagna, but they were assuming it was noodles with vegetables. So we came up with the name vegetable not lasagna. All right, so with that, I'm going to, Michelle, were there any questions that came up on the chat during that?
No questions, except for Jackie wondering if it was being recorded, and it is being recorded now, thanks to Jackie. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, with that then, I'm gonna hand it off to Michelle.
Well, welcome. Welcome to my kitchen, also known as my office. Since I'm a production team of one, we realized that I wouldn't be able to cook and do the setup like Lisa. I went ahead and prepared my dishes ahead of time and photographed them. So what I want to share with you right now, we're kind of preparing dishes that take a little bit of time and require a little bit of setting. So I'm going to show you how to prepare the dessert. So we have the main entree gone into the oven, and so let's look at dessert. And tonight I have the chocolate dream pie that I want to share with you. And let me see where I can find it. Sorry, technical difficulties here. Okay, for some reason I'm not able to share my screen.
Can I help, Michelle?
Yeah.
All right.
Can
I ask you to share screen? Is that what
yes, there you
go.
I think I can share it now.
There you go.
All right, so this is an amazing chocolate cream pie. It's like a chocolate silk pie. And it's a great pie to introduce to your friends who are not vegans and are maybe looking for a healthier way to enjoy a treat. So this recipe is in the Capitol Memorial Church cookbook. So you can find it in the cookbook, and it's called the Chocolate Dream Pie. So here we have just a photograph of the ingredients that we're going to be using. We have silken tofu. So this meal today has a lot of ingredients that you can use for the entree, you can use for the dessert, for the other dish. So we have silken tofu, we have vegan chocolate chips, we have vanilla extract, salt. I like to use pink salt, and you can use powdered sugar or stevia. And then there are a couple optional flavorings that you can use. Peanut butter, and if you want to kick things up a little bit of rum extract is really yummy. There's no alcohol in it, just the flavoring. And then I like to use a prepared graham cracker crust. The recipe in the cookbook and in the that we shared with you has a recipe for a really great chocolate crust that's really easy to make and delicious. But if you want something that's quick and easy, this is a really quick and easy dessert, and it tastes like $1,000,000. So let's get to it. So the first step is to take the tofu. I like to use this shelf-stable Morinu extra firm tofu. So I use 2 blocks. You can use a food processor or a blender, works great. I like to blend the tofu first with the salt and the sugar. So here I'm adding the salt. If you want sugar, you can add the sugar, or I, a couple of years ago, found out that I'm diabetic, so I try to make things a little more diabetic friendly, but that still tastes great. So I used 4 packs of stevia in this particular recipe. So you then can add the flavorings, the vanilla extract. I added a teaspoon of vanilla. I did a half teaspoon of the rum extract. And at this time, if you want to add the peanut butter, you can add the peanut butter. I actually added peanut butter in this particular pie, half cup of peanut butter, or sorry, a cup of peanut butter. So I'll blend it in the food processor. Very satisfying to see the thing go into like creamy, into a creamy form. And while it's blending, you take the chocolate chips and melt them in the microwave. And so I like to melt the chocolate chips in sort of maybe 30-second to 60-second increments. It takes about maybe 2 minutes, depends on your microwave. But you don't want the chocolate chips to scorch. You just want them to melt. So once the chocolate chips are melted, then you add the melted chocolate chips to the tofu mix. And it'll look kind of clumpy like this at the beginning. You start blending it, it gets a little, it starts to blend and mix, and you just want to make sure that you scrape down the bowl. And it should look fairly smooth at the end. So here's a little video of, you can see it kind of going from white sorry, doesn't take long to do. And so once it's all smooth, then just pour it into your pie shell. Pour it into the pie shell, cover it, refrigerate it. It's great if you refrigerate it overnight. And the next morning, it's nice and firm, but it's great if you stick it in the fridge for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So while our vegetable knot lasagna is baking, our dessert is going to be firming up in the fridge. And so when you're ready to serve it, if you want to kick it up a notch, You can add a little squirt of non-dairy whipped cream, or just eat it plain. Maybe slice some bananas on top. If you leave out the peanut butter, you can add fruit. Fresh raspberries or fresh strawberries are really great. The filling is wonderful to eat just as a pudding or a mousse. So if you want to even make it even more low carb, just forget about the crust altogether and just eat the chocolate. But it's a really great way. You don't really taste the tofu. And, I remember testing it with one of my relatives who was very skeptical. Tofu in a pie. And so when she tasted it, she said, this is really good. So that's our chocolate dream pie.
Hey, Michelle, there were a couple of questions while you were giving your presentation.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Jackie wanted to know if when you meant 4 packs of stevia, you meant the small little individual packs.
Yes, so I'll show you the individual, so it's basically about 4 teaspoons of stevia powder.
All right. And another question from Uwe was, can she use a Vitamix instead of the food
Oh
processor?
yeah, absolutely. I bet you Vitamix would. What can't a Vitamix do?
And another question from Rhonda was, could you use cocoa powder instead of chocolate chips?
Yes, actually, you can use cocoa powder. So one thing that I've done is I've done this with cocoa powder, and I just, it's to your taste. So I like a lot. I might put in like a 1/3 of a cup of cocoa powder, maybe. I would add some bananas. I love bananas. So I did this recipe with the tofu, 1 box of tofu. I think I did 1 or 2 bananas, the cocoa powder, some stevia, a little bit of salt, and vanilla extract, and whizzed it up, and it was really great as a pudding. It's a little lighter. The chocolate chips help the texture firm up as it chills, so it's a little bit more of a cheesecake kind of texture when it's cold. So if you didn't use the chocolate chips, then it would be a little bit of a looser consistency, but still very good.
Great, thank you. One last question from Uwe, which was, could you use carob chips instead of chocolate chips?
I bet you could. I wouldn't know about the melting temperature. I think carob has a different melting point than chocolate, but I bet you could try it.
All right, thank you. One more question has come in. Does the silken tofu have to be firm, or can you use soft tofu?
So you can use soft tofu. Again, it's all about the consistency of the custard, right? The extra firm tofu, I think it sets up and helps you get the most firm texture overall. But if you want more of a loose kind of pudding, then I think the soft would be fine.
Awesome, thank you very much. Everyone else, just a reminder, if you have any question, feel free to ask it during chat, and hopefully by the end of the presentation, we'll be able to get it answered for you.
Great, thank you. I think we're heading back to the Carreno kitchen.
Yep, hold on, I gotta unmute. There we go.
I think I got it. Okay. Yeah, I realized that, okay, I said I would do the questions and chat for Michelle, but then I realized I don't have a way to do it because my phone is on this contraption and then my iPad is propped up over there. And then we were gonna also have my laptop so I could kind of see and do the chat, but then the internet bandwidth just didn't support all of these devices because Wesley's got a couple on as well. So anyway, so Wesley will be our chat moderator. Okay,
Well, if there's
so
anyone who thinks it's not my fault, right? Is that what we're agreeing to?
yes, nothing is your fault. It will all be my fault tonight.
Amen. All right, it's on record, so we're good.
Okay, so before we do the kale salad, there was something that I wanted to share with you in the previous recipe. So I shared with you about how to wash herbs and lettuce. But I want to share with you how to keep them fresh. Now, this has been just a mind blower for me because I just had this terrible habit of buying a lot of fresh things. I love going to Lotte Plaza, the Asian market, and just buying everything and then never being able to eat it all. And especially the herbs and the lettuce would go bad and I just get so frustrated. So this was a tip I found on YouTube and it works. And so I'm going to show you a real live example of how it works. So the trick is when you come home from the market, wash all your herbs, wash your lettuce leaves, dry them, and then stick them in paper towels, okay? Stick them in paper towels and then put the paper towel wrapped greens in a Ziploc bag and press the air out. Now I'm going to show you this. So I put the date. So Wes, if you want to switch the camera, okay? This is cilantro that I put in here on August 23. That's a solid 2.5 weeks ago, okay? And you open it up 2.5 weeks later and it's still good, okay? There's a couple of little brown leaves I may not use, but the most of it is still good. So this has just been really great, you know, especially for an herb. Now, cilantro I do tend to use quite a bit, but for example, I bought mint once because I wanted to use it in a recipe. I bought some Thai basil for something, and I did this, and it lasted a long time. Also, lettuce leaves for salad. So this has been a really, really great tip for me for things to last longer. Now, believe me, there are still times I still have to throw things out because I haven't used them, but this mitigates that quite a bit, that tip. So I wanted to share that one with you. Okay, so now I'm going to do the kale salad, and you can see I don't have quantities on this recipe. I just have the ingredients, and you'll see I just don't know how to do quantities on this. It's a very simple salad, but there are a couple of tips that I want to show you how to do it. And my mother is going to distract me because she just walked in. So go in Wesley's room, you can watch it from there. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is this kale that I bought is just beautiful. Wes, if you want to switch the camera here. And this, what you're seeing here, is actually half of a head of kale or half of a bunch of kale. So the thing about kale is you don't want this rib, okay? Now, for this kale salad, I recommend that you buy the kale in a bunch. Don't buy the bagged kale, because the bagged kale, all they do is chop up these big leaves, including the rib, into little pieces. So at first you might think, oh, okay, well, it's all little pieces already, but all those little pieces have the ribs in them. So this is just much nicer to get rid of those ribs, okay? And you can see I'm just, very quickly pulling these off. If you want, you can use a knife, but your hand is just fine. Kale is very hardy. This is a green that lasts a really long time in the fridge. You don't need to wrap this guy up in paper towels in the Ziploc. It's kind of, similar to cabbage. It just will last a long time, just as is, because it's such a hardy leaf. So what I'm doing, I'm pulling everything off the rib, and I'll show you in a minute where I'm throwing it. I'm throwing it in a large pan of water. So we're doing the same thing, okay? So I'm washing this. Now, kale, for some reason, I don't really know why, there's rarely much dirt in it. Like, certain types of lettuce have a lot of dirt. Cilantro often has a lot of dirt, but there's usually not much dirt in kale. So it's just a matter, washing off the pesticides and anything that might be in there, okay? Next thing I'm going to do, because I don't want all this water, is I'm going to put it in a salad spinner. All right. And Wes, if you want to switch the view, it might be easier to see. Now, if you don't have a salad spinner, then you can, stick it in a paper towel or in a regular towel and dry it off. But this is a pretty cool tool I've had this spinner, honestly, I think since I first got married. For those of you who don't know me, I've been married 32 years. I've had this thing a really long time. I'll tell you, there's a crack in it. It's warped because I think one time it accidentally got put in the dishwasher, but it still works. So these things are not expensive tools. I think maybe $20. And I use it for pretty much every green, whether it's lettuce or herbs, or in this case, kale. And I usually kind of spin it a few times, move the leaves around, and it will get probably a good 80% of the water out. All right, now the next thing I'm gonna do is I want these bite size. So I'm gonna cut them up and then stick them in a bowl. And you will see this is very rough chopped. I don't really care so much, you know, to be exact. I just take a big handful and do a chop and put them in a bowl. Now, one thing Mel and Wesley always say, they're actually very helpful and often do the dishes for me, but they do get a little frustrated with me at how many dishes I use. And I don't know if it's me or if it's just part of cooking healthy and you just have a lot of different ingredients. But when I'm done cooking, it kind of looks like a tornado in the kitchen. And, you know, I'll serve maybe one dish, but then I'll have 7 other dishes that I use to prepare that dish. So lots of dishwashing. Okay, so now we've got the leaves are all prepped. Okay, now I want to talk to you a little bit about salad dressings. So we entertain a lot. I make a lot of different salads, lots of different combinations of things with vegetables and fruits and nuts. And, you know, and often when I'm making them, it's whatever I have, I'll put together. And people constantly say your salad is so delicious. I think the trick in why the salad is so delicious is the vinegar. And I buy a very premium vinegar. Here, Wes, I'll hold it up on the camera. This is the brand, let's see if I can get that there, Secolari. There's a store here in Clarksville. They also have an online store, okay? They literally have probably 30 different flavors of vinegar. The one that's my favorite is the white balsamic. And the reason I like this one so much is because it's viscous, so it's thick, so it can stick to the lettuce, and it has a sweetness to it. So it does not have that sharp vinegar taste. Now, even their vinegars that they sell that are not balsamic, in fact, see if I can, yeah, here's another one that I really like. This one was blackberry vinegar with roasted pepper. And this is not a balsamic, so this is more watery. But even their regular vinegars that are not balsamic do not have that vinegar bite that many people who don't like vinegar don't like, okay? These all have a little sweetness to them. And so my salad dressings, 90% of the time, are literally 4 ingredients: olive oil, a good vinegar, salt, and pepper, and that's it. And those ingredients really bring out the flavors of whatever you're putting in your bowl, okay? So tonight, I've got the kale. Now, actually, I was kind of excited that my mom walked into my house because the next trick I'm gonna show you, I learned from her, okay? So if you just took a handful of kale and just started eating it, it's really not a pleasant texture, right? It's tough, it's kind of woody, you know, it's flavorful, but the texture is kind of tough. So here's the trick on the kale. So Wes, you wanna switch that camera. So I've added the vinegar and the oil. And the trick on the kale is a good massage. Okay, so just like we humans like a nice massage and it relaxes us, a good massage relaxes the kale. So don't be afraid to get your hands in there. And you're gonna use both hands and you're squeezing hard. And honestly, you wanna keep going until your hands are tired, and they will get tired. And when I'm done here, you will see that the volume, you can probably already tell how much it's gone down. So it was about 2/3 full, and now it's going to be maybe 1/4 full. So what this process is doing is it's pressing the oil and vinegar into the leaves, and with the squeezing, you're breaking down all the little tiny ribs that are throughout the kale leaf, which gives it its firm structure. And this will make it more pleasant to eat, to be frank. Okay. All right, so let me just step over to the sink real quick. Okay, and then I'm going to add the salt and pepper. And again, it's just to taste, you know, your taste buds. So a little salt. Okay, sorry, my hands are oily. can't twist the pepper shaker with oily hands. All right, get some pepper in there. Okay, then I'm gonna just take a spoon, swish that around. All right, and the 2 toppings that I'm adding, and again, in this salad, you can just add anything you want, but it's very nice to have in a salad to have a sweet and to have a crunch, okay? I put fruit in my salads quite a bit. I'll use grapes, apples, mangoes, mandarin oranges, kiwi. But one trick I have learned the hard way is that if you have a tomato in your salad, if you want to put tomatoes in your salad, then don't do a sweet fruit. Somehow the tomato and the fruit don't work well together. But if you're not putting a tomato in your salad, you can do fruit. So what I'm going to do for the fruit on this one is I'm going to use craisins. Okay. Again, kale is a very hearty, leafy vegetable, and the craisins, and then the crunch I'm going to put is pumpkin seeds. And both of those kind of have a hearty flavor that complement well with the kale. I'm just going to put a shake in there. And then some pumpkin seeds. I love these raw pumpkin seeds. Although we have a fight here at the house because Wesley and I love them, and Mel is not a fan. So, and that is it. That's the kale salad. You can tell it works well to serve it with a spoon because the craisins and pepinos, which are the pumpkin seeds, tend to fall to the bottom. So you want to do, you know, when you serve it, scoop from the bottom. So a very, very simple salad, but very hearty, very flavorful, and frankly kind of sticks to your ribs. And by the way, if you are trying to, you know, if one of your objectives is to lose weight, but you enjoy eating, this takes a really long time to eat because you have to chew so much. And then when you're done, you're kind of tired of eating. So maybe it has a side benefit as well. So I hope you give that a try and enjoy. Okay, with that, I think we're gonna switch back to Michelle.
Great. Let's see. I don't see any questions. Lisa, I was going to ask you because I've heard of the massaging technique, but if you're lazy and don't want to massage, would it work to like heat up the dressing and just pour the hot dressing over the kale and just kind of like stir it up and sort of quasi cook it?
I've never tried that. I mean, I'm sure to some degree it would definitely soften it up. I just don't know if it would get as soft as massaging, because part of that massaging process is breaking down all the little tiny ribs throughout the leaves. But it's definitely an option.
Yeah. Always looking for the shortcut here.
Yep, that's true.
So, shortcuts. Speaking of shortcuts, so you went to the grocery store and you bought the zucchini for your vegetable, not lasagna, and you didn't use up all of the zucchini. You have like 2 of them left over. What are you going to do? Well, I have the perfect solution. So if I can share my screen, I will show you what to do with it. So this is a recipe that I tasted many years ago. I was a senior at Andrews University, and they had just opened the new School of Business building. And at the reception, there was, among the many dishes that they had, it was sort of a Mediterranean meal. And I just remember two things about this meal. One, there was an amazing sort of spanakopita and this dish of zucchini with walnuts. And I just remember thinking it was one of the most delicious things that I had tasted. Um, and so I remember asking the caterer what was in this dish, because I never tasted zucchini, this kind of flavor profile before. And the caterer told me it's very easy. It's zucchini with walnuts and walnut oil. And I'd never heard of walnut oil before. So many years later, I've kind of recreated this recipe as I remember it. So it's super easy. Half a cup of chopped walnuts, 2 medium zucchini sliced. You can slice them however you like, rounds. You'll see that I slice them in 2 different ways, in rounds and then also in kind of like squares. 3 tablespoons of walnut oil, a teaspoon of dried thyme, half a lemon, and salt and pepper to taste. Super easy side dish. So the first step is just in a dry saucepan, toast the walnuts. You toast the walnuts over kind of a medium heat, about 10 minutes or so, until they're toasted and kind of fragrant. And then just remove them from the pan and put them in a bowl, set them on the counter. You sliced up your zucchini and you pour the oil in a pan, in the same pan, and heat it up. So as you can see here, I've sliced the zucchini, and 1 zucchini I sliced in rounds, 1 I sliced in these sort of rectangle shapes, thinly, and so there's a little bit of texture difference in the zucchini. But if you are, like you like things more orderly, you can also just slice them all the same shape. So freedom. So in the, heat the oil up and then saute the zucchini. And I want to thank my niece for helping me film this segment. We're at her parents' house and cooking the zucchini here. So you just put the zucchini in the pan and kind of toss it in the oil, try to get coat the zucchini with the oil, and then here I'm adding the thyme, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and then you just kind of stir it up to try to distribute the thyme evenly. And I haven't salted the zucchini at all. I've not done anything. I've just, put it in the walnut oil, added the thyme, and we're just sauteing it, just trying to get the pieces coated. So it doesn't take long, but as you can see, having the different cuts of zucchini also means that thin cuts are going to break down, cook a little faster than the thicker round cuts, and so you'll get some sort of very soft bits of the zucchini and more firm bits. And so here I'm about to salt it. And then you squeeze half a lemon onto the as you can see, the zucchinis are beginning to release quite a bit of water. So the lemon is nice to add a little bit of tartness to the dish. But you've got the sweetness of the walnut oil, the salt, and a little bit of this acid, and then the sort of herby, earthy flavor of the thyme. And then the last, you add the walnuts. So I had, so in the measurements I said a half a cup of walnuts. I had actually toasted 3/4 of a cup of walnuts, so that's why you don't see me adding all of the walnuts. Here we've added the walnuts. That's kind of the last piece of this dish, and it's ready to serve now. We would put this in a bowl, and it's ready to eat. Now, if you want to take it a step further, and if you're not, going to kind of jazz it up a little bit, you could put it in an oven-proof dish and throw some vegan cheese on top or non-vegan cheese on top, and just stick it under the broiler, and create a little bit of a casserole. But this is great as a warm side dish or as a cold, room temperature dish as well. So plate it and serve it to some satisfied customers.
Thanks, Michelle. We did have one question, which
Yeah.
was if we used, or could we use fresh thyme? And if so, how much should we use instead of dried?
Oh, fresh thyme would probably be really great. I would say maybe like half a teaspoon of fresh thyme. It's going to be a little more fragrant. And thyme, some of this is to your taste as well. If you want more of that herby flavor, you can add more thyme. But I would say, if I was using a fresh thyme, then I might add just maybe like 2 sprigs of thyme.
All right, thank you. One last question, which was, actually, I kind of had a question. What's the difference between olive oil and other types? And Diane wanted to know could you use a different type of oil?
So yes, you can obviously use a different type of oil. It does change the flavor. And what is specific about this dish is that it is the walnut oil that gives it this kind of sweet and nutty flavor that it's hard to describe. You can use olive oil, and a good olive oil would taste delicious. But the Andrews University experience that is embedded in my memory is walnut oil. And so walnut oil used to be pretty expensive. I found this at Safeway for about $6 a bottle, I think, for that bottle. Still expensive, but I think you could probably use it in a salad dressing that would be, really yummy as well.
All right, thank you. That was it for the questions.
Great, thanks. And thanks to Minna for the conversions for dried to fresh herbs.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, so I'm going to take this guy out of the oven here so we can take a look. Okay. My phone just went low battery, so that's probably why we had hiccup there. So I'm gonna take it out, and now if you've ever made regular lasagna, you actually know it's best if it like sits for 20 minutes before you cut it. And the same with this, because there's the vegetables have given off water. So it's just good for it to set. But because we're here, I want to go ahead and try to cut it and serve a piece. I may regret doing it, but we'll give it a try. So Wes, if you want to just switch the camera so they can see what it looks like all baked, all right? So it's bubbling. And basically, you know, we had cooked everything ahead of time. So it's not like you're cooking the vegetables, but what the baking allows is for the sauces to meld into the vegetables and for those flavors to combine. All right, so we will give this a try. I'm gonna use a bigger guy. Use this guy. Aha. Worked. Let me show you the plate. All right, so that's what we've got, the kale and the vegetable knot lasagna. And there's a space right here and here to add some of the zucchini with walnuts. And then we would end the meal with dream pie. So that's it. Those are the 4 recipes we wanted to share with you. Now what we'll do is Wesley will unmute everyone. I'm going to switch so I can actually sit in front of my iPad, and we'll open it up if anyone has any other questions or comments.
I'm not going to unmute everyone, but I'll let you unmute yourselves if you would like.
Okay, thanks.
Also, if you want, please turn your cameras on so we can all wave at each other and say hello.
Lisa, I have to say, you are a natural. This is great. You like explaining everything and giving
Professional
tips.
there.
I always turn myself. Oh, here we go.
Okay.